Adam Galinsky, tell me, when do I want to cooperate and when do I want to compete? So who's my friend and who's my foe?
So the key thing about this book is that everyone is your friend and everyone is also your foe. So every relationship that we have with our children, with our spouses, with our siblings, with our colleagues, with our friends, there's always this tension between cooperation and competition. So let's take a good example of a new parent. You collaborate and you cooperate your friends as you try to raise your child, but for a newborn, you're also competing over who's going to get sleep, who's going to have to get up in the middle of the night. And so we're always having to manage this tension between cooperation and competition. So the key insight of our book is basically that you're friends and foes with everyone, and just becoming aware of this, knowledge of that allows us to navigate our relationships more effectively.
But at work, you have to put together teams and you have to work with other people, and you don't always get to choose the people you want to work with in that particular team. So what's the best way to manage a team, to assemble a team, to make sure things go smoothly at work?
So one of the key findings that we present in this research is a phenomenon that we call the too much talent effect. Now, most people think, you know what I want in my team? I want the most talent, more and more talented people. What we found is that when team members have to work together, they have to collaborate, they're interdependent, that when you get too much talent, actually performance no longer goes up, but actually starts to go down because now you get in status conflicts. And the original finding of the too much talent effect was actually found with chickens. They actually bred all these high egg-producing chickens, but they found out actually egg production went down rather than up because the high egg-producing chickens were also the most competitive chickens, and they basically pecked each other to death. And so as you organize teams, you want to actually have a mix of people in different roles and different talents to avoid these status conflicts that impair teams and prevent them from collaborating.
And you're not suggesting get rid of a hierarchy entirely, because we've seen that this year. We heard Tony Hsieh over at Zappos try and get rid of a corporate hierarchy. That's now owned by Amazon, and it didn't work. It failed miserably. So you don't necessarily say you got to keep things flat.
Absolutely. Google tried many years ago when they first got started. They said, no managers, we're engineers. Total failure. They switched back. You see this with Zappos, where they often have a 2% attrition rate, and it's gone up to 14% this year, something like that. Hierarchy is the longest living form of social organization in the world. Just look at the bees, right? The queen bee, all the worker bees working together, collaborating. Hierarchy, we want hierarchy because it provides order, it helps patterns of deference, it helps cooperation, it helps coordination. Now, we also need to create low-power people to have the opportunity to speak up, but no hierarchy is often a disaster.
And sometimes those low-powered people want raises. So we keep hearing it's a great economy now. Corporations are making money. So if you are one of these low-powered people and you want to approach the queen bee or the king bee for a raise, what's the best way to do it? Because a lot of the book is also about negotiations and the power structure behind negotiations.
So a couple of things. First thing is that the two biggest sources of power in negotiation are your alternatives and information. So if you want a raise, the best way to get a raise is to have a strong outside offer. The second best way to get a raise is to have strong information. What are other people in my role getting? Objective information to go into that. Now, when you go in with that strong alternative and that information, you want to then put a strong anchor down at the table. And so I like to use the phrase, you want to have as ambitious offer as you can without going to this side of crazy. You want to be on this side of crazy, not that. You don't want to be on the Jack Nicholson Shining side of crazy, but you want to be ambitious. And so one of the things that we talk about in our book is, the book is always about how we find the right balance. How do we find the right balance with the amount of talent or the amount of hierarchy? And in this case, how do we find the right balance in how ambitious our first offers are?
And no matter how hard women try to get pay in balance, they always seem to be coming up short. I think women make 77 cents for every dollar a male makes. So should women be friends or foes? Should they be the queen bee? How should they act in the workplace so they get what's due, what they're due?
That's an incredibly complicated question. So two key findings from the book are, first of all, is that power affects women similarly than men. The problem is women face a double bind because they can't act the same way as men do with power. And it's a very complicated question. And we focus in the book about there's things organizations can do that can help actually women succeed. So one is transparency in reporting. But women have to walk a tightrope. And one of the things that we talk about in the research is that women can actually negotiate aggressively and ambitiously if they frame it in a larger context of, I'm not just advocating for myself, but I'm also advocating for other people. And it's an unfair burden that's placed on women, but once women understand the double bind they face, they can start to construct some of the ways to sort of overcome that double bind. But hopefully over time, as organizations work together to improve the power of women, hopefully that double bind will disappear.
All right, well, thanks a lot for coming on and talking about
so
friend
much.
and foe.
Yes.
And thank you for watching The Street.